Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
And Cody Geiler. How are you guys?
Hey.
Good.
Doing good.
Doing good. Staying warm, I hope. It is some coldness going on out there. In fact, I think there's a blizzard going on right now. Yep. A couple more inches coming down here in Kentucky. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Inside the Force. Got a lot to dive into now, spanning several different mediums, from some TV news to book news to comics. And then we're going to finalize this topic, this episode, with the topic of this year. Hopefully, I think some of you have seen it. This year is actually the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm. Crazy to think that George started this thing 50 years ago, 1971. So kind of want to talk a little bit about that and what they're planning on doing this year for that. So, but first, of course, we've got to mention the big news that's circulating all over social media right now is the departure of Gina Carano from The Mandalorian. Now, everybody can get online and read all about all that circumstances that happened with all that, but really what I want to focus on with this is really the impact of the show, The Mandalorian. Case, I'll go to you first. Obviously, what we're hearing also as far as her character is that they're not planning on recasting it. So it seems like we're just not going to have Gina's character anymore in The Mandalorian. Cara Dune is not going to be there. So what do you think about that? Is that something that is easy to go on because they haven't even started filming season 3 yet? Case.
Sorry, only said Cody, but okay.
Did I say Case? I thought I said Case.
You said Case Cody. Anywho, I'm fine with it. I'm glad they decided not to recast, because I remember reading earlier reports saying that they were going to recast, and then overwhelmingly online, a bunch of sources are saying that they're not recasting. So, which is great, because that's the good standard that Star Wars has had forever of not recasting. So, that is so on that side. Yes, I'm glad they're not recasting, just because that would be weird if they did. Although, yeah, still it is sad that she's not playing the role anymore. But it's although now that we've gone through 2 seasons of Mandalorian, Cara Dune's presence isn't as huge, I feel like, across the 2 seasons than we all thought she would be initially. She's popped up in just a handful of episodes in both seasons, and so I'm gonna kind of say, like, it's not going to be hard to exclude her from future seasons, just because she, to me, was barely in it to begin with, which obviously is unfortunate, because she was great, and Cara Dune's a great character. But so her presence will be missed, but I'm glad that it's remaining a Gina Carano character, not someone else.
Mm-hmm. Cody?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about what Casey said. I was actually curious, because in my head she was in less episodes, but I think I looked it up on IMDb just last night, because I was just kind of reading other stuff about it, and I think she's in like 7 of the episodes, and there's 8 and 8, so 16, almost
16
half
chapters.
of them. Yeah, not quite half.
Some
in my
really
head, she was in a lot
moments.
less. Yeah, some of them it's like not as much, but so I don't think it's that big of a deal for them to write her out, to not recast. I mean, I was fine with her performance, with Gina's performance, and with Cara Dune as a character. I thought she was kind of interesting, this rebel, shock trooper backstory, and turned into sort of like a rogue. I like the physicality. I thought the interesting decision Jon Favreau really likes seemingly like MMA, UFC. So bringing somebody that can bring like a physical side to this role, especially where you've got a lot of stunt performers actually performing in the Mando suit, so you can really get into these like interesting physical action scenes. So I would love them to continue that in whatever they choose to do moving forward. I think just surely from a like, how does the story go from here? You know, you've already brought in Bo-Katan. Ahsoka's getting her own show, so she might not be in Mandalorian season 3 as much, but I think it's a really easy route to just be like, you know what, Bo-Katan's probably going to take a lot of the screen time that Cara had in season 1 and some of season 2, because it seems like the story is moving towards a much more Mandalorian focused show. And just strictly from another female, character who is, this Mandalorian, who's kind of a, fighter. I feel like you've got that in Bo-Katan. And so Cara Dune is just kind of like, a little bit of the same.
Yeah, I think it's funny you say 7. She was in 7 chapters, because I probably wouldn't even guess that many. I'm actually surprised. I was actually surprised because when the first season came out, it was touted that you've got the Mandalorian and you got Cara Dune, you got Greef Karga. Like, those are your 3 main characters, and there were times when Greef wasn't even around that much at all. Maybe 2 episodes, I think 2 or 3 episodes the first season. Barely what he was in 1 maybe this season, maybe 2. I think 2 maybe. So these characters didn't even really show up as much as I anticipated, I think, in the beginning. So I think they did a good job, actually, they as in the writers and mainly Favreau, of keeping the story centered on the Mandalorian and Grogu, really, the child, and not having these other characters play major roles in these. There truly are supporting roles. I mean, he's kind of goes to Cara and goes to Greef whenever he needs help with something, his damaged ship, or helping, with the Empire and stuff like that. So I do think the way season 2 ended, you can easily continue the story without her. And like you said, they've got another strong female character with Bo-Katan already there. And I'm sure there's going to be other ones that they bring back. The question becomes, beyond this, is the other Disney Plus series that they had planned, possibly, we don't know for sure, but were they planning on using Cara Dune in Rangers of the New Republic? There's also rumors out there that her own series around her character was in development. So how does let's go to Rangers, because I think everybody anticipated her being in that. Cody, how do you think that affects that series?
This is pure speculation. And I don't know why they never announced any actors, and I guess they didn't really announce any actors with shows. Book of Boba Fett wasn't even announced at that time. Ahsoka, we just knew it was called Ahsoka, and Ahsoka's obviously going to be there, so we can put 2 and 2 together that it was Rosario. But with Rangers, I thought it was odd that there were no character announcements with that show. We're left to speculate. I think a lot of people assumed with where Cara Dune's character was going, that she was this Marshal turned New Republic, that we might see Carson, the pilot that shows up in like we might see him again. I feel like this firing is going to affect that show, and I feel like it was probably already a little bit further out. We kind of assume, and I think it's been mentioned, that Filoni is writing Ahsoka, or was writing Ahsoka at the time of the announcement, during the investor day thing. And obviously Book of Boba Fett's already been filming. Next up to film is likely Mandalorian season 3 sometime early this year, hopefully. So I think they may even have to go back to the drawing board on the Rangers of the New Republic side. Maybe she was going to headline that show. Maybe she was going to be heavily involved. I could see it getting pushed, shoved later, and maybe something else comes in its place in the sort of production pipeline, and it takes a little bit of time for it to get off the ground now.
Yeah. Case?
I mean, yeah, I don't know how much more I can add to that. Just simply because we knew virtually nothing about the Rangers show, so all we had is speculation. And so based on all the fun fan theories people have been thinking of, yeah, that would pretty much throw a wrench into it, because, I guess the hope was that this show would, in all these theories, that show would be pushing forward this plot to, involving Thrawn possibly, or something like that. If all these shows are kind of pushing towards the same shared plot, in a sense, the same shared universe, Mandalore or Thrawn or whatever it is, it would have been cool to have Cara involved with that, and having once again a cool team build up show. But yeah, so that's certainly. I think that's every fan's theory is now crushed because of that. So I know the pilot was one other rumored character. There's been so many other characters that people were kind of fantasizing about being part of this new Rangers group. But yeah, Cara was certainly one that I think almost everybody was hoping for. But yeah, if that was true, I don't know if we'll ever know. I mean, hopefully,
I don't know
sure,
either.
I don't see why they wouldn't just come out and say that they thought of putting her in there. But maybe they will, maybe they won't.
I don't think they will.
Bill Burr's character gets a little more.
Yeah. I did see someone like that saying that Bill Burr would be a good, if they had a Cara Dune role for season 3 of Mandalorian, if they needed to fill in someone for that Bill Burr's character would be a good fit for that. But yeah, maybe he's a Ranger now.
That's true. I don't think I don't anticipate them mentioning anything, to be honest. In fact, the fact that they haven't even mentioned anything yet as far as a statement about it, I think they're just going to let social media run with what's happened. I mean, apparently there is a Lucasfilm statement somewhere out there that someone picked up, but it hasn't been, widespread as far as the media outlets. So I think I feel like they're just going to let this thing go. And to transition a little bit into rumors with the Rangers show, there's some speculation out there that Gina Carano's character, Iden Versio, from the Battlefront series, Battlefront 2, namely the campaign, that there's speculation that her character possibly could show up somewhere, some way or form, but whether or not it's the rumored Battlefront 3 game that's in development, possibly a continuation of campaign there. But could we actually see her make the jump to live action? We've mentioned that a lot on this show, that I think all three of us are in agreement that we'd love to see that. I think this is actually, if they didn't plan it, I feel like they're doing it now. I would put my money on that Iden Versio shows up in the Rangers TV show. This is ideal because at this point she's already converted to the Republic. Back in shortly after the battle, or prior to the Battle of Jakku, she fought in the Battle of Jakku on the Republic side, rebellion. But now this is 5 years later, which has given her the opportunity to grow into that leadership role. And I definitely see her being a leader, possibly, of these Rangers. I mean, she was a leader of Inferno Squad. So I'd put my money on that even if that show was about Cara Dune, I feel like it's now going to be about Iden Versio. Thoughts, Case? Am I wrong or right?
Well, I don't know. I do think that all the tweets that she had been posting, Gina Carano had been posting, and tagging the writers and developers of the game, certainly heads towards another game,
right?
Or at least something in that, and specifically to that world. Because I feel like the tweet was even answering a question about the Mandalorian universe. So
about whether or not it takes place around that time.
Yeah, and she just kind of tagged the other developers of the game. So my thought, and I think that a lot of other people were kind of thinking the same thing of Inferno Squad getting their own show based around this time period. Whatever, I guess if Inferno Squad comes back, but certainly Iden, and you have a handful of other characters already there that you can write for. But that would be pretty cool. I feel like. Yeah, Ranger. I mean, if she has a Ranger would fit, but there's just so many other characters there that I think we would need to see. And his name escapes me, but her husband, I guess, if they even officially got married, I don't remember his name, but
Miko,
Del Miko, yeah,
Del Miko, yeah.
Him and their daughter and Shriv, and so you have already a lot of people there. I would think. I would rather see a show with that cast of characters, and I don't think it's fair to put them all as Rangers. Why not just make them something else? I feel like, to me, a show called The Rangers involves New Republic, obviously, as the title suggests, New Republic forces, and I don't think Iden Versio ever necessarily fought for New Republic. I feel like she kind of was on her own, if I'm not mistaken, until Resistance came along. And then she jumped onto Resistance on the Resistance side. But until she her time ended, then it was her daughter. But so that would be cool. But I'd much rather would probably see just a show for her. But again, it's like, what was she up to? I was kind of led to believe that she kind of led a quiet life throughout most of her life, but obviously that can be changed.
My memory of it is, and I got to look back, but I felt like she fought for the first few years as part of the Republic, and then, like you said, I think they at some point did get married and have their daughter, and because I don't know how old her daughter is at that point. I can't remember how old her daughter is at the point of
right. That's right.
For Force Awakens, but she seems like she's in her teens or mid to late teens.
Right.
So there's that 30-year gap there. So I feel like 5 years after, she would still be there trying to help rebuild the New Republic and get that started. So I don't know, Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think she fought in the Battle of Jakku, so I think there was a New Republic tie initially, and then her and Del Miko probably went off, like you said, and started their life, raised their daughter. I think with the formula of Mando Season 2, it would make much more sense to me if she popped up in a cameo role. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do agree, Dave. I think it would be fun to see her as like a leader of this Rangers, and Rangers of the New Republic. She was a ex-Imperial Inferno Squad, so there's layers there. What if other Imperial remnants pop up, and obviously they're probably going after them, so there's like some interesting ties there, and potentially people that she would have known. Adds more layers of depth for a show that I think that would be really great to watch. And then you bring in potentially Bill Burr's character Mayfield. He's got some of those same ties, being an ex-Imperial sharpshooter. So I think it would be really interesting to add her. I don't know that she'll be I don't know if she'll be in it at all, but I don't know that she would necessarily be like a star or regular, but definitely in a cameo role. Yeah. I think. But why not when you have, she played a video game character, but she's also a good live action actress. And I think that's what it seems like Lucasfilm has done really well. And even some of their animated content is they're casting actors. They're not just casting, you only do voice acting for video games, or you only do voice acting in general. So the fact that they've got her in this role, makes a lot of sense to use her. But I do think that her tweet was probably about a video game appearance.
Yeah. Okay. I still hold on to some hope, because I think she's one of those Jania she's such a huge Star Wars fan. I think there's got to be, and her, as far as I know, too, she's been showing up in a lot of different films, and she's building her name. And I think her talent is there. I think she can carry a show herself. So hopefully, I'd love to see it. I think the character is a good character. I think it's interesting to see. I think it was I think that storyline of Battlefront 2 was such a compelling story. I actually really enjoyed seeing it versus not just playing it, but really following that story. And because her father, was obviously an Imperial, so she had to go against her father, not just the Empire, but family as well. So it was a very, very compelling story. I think it was very well done. So, so we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out with Mandalorian, with Rangers of the New Republic. Crazy that we got that announcement and we still haven't really gotten anything else except the Book of Boba Fett, really, as an announcement. But a lot of new information still needs to come out with these shows. Cody, something you mentioned right before we started recording. There's some Rian Johnson news out there, possibly. What?
What?
I don't know. Again, can this be true? But there is a tweet out there by a Soraya Wilson. And it reads something like this. I'm just going to post this now because I can see that I'm going to get a lot of requests. Yes, Ryan's Star Wars trilogy is still on. No dates or timelines because he has other projects going on. But it is happening. That is all I know about it. That is all. That is like huge. Not announced at Disney Investor Day that Rian Johnson is still working on movies. We're going to get movies from Taika and from Patty Jenkins, seems like first. I don't know. Cody, is this to be believed? Is Rian Johnson actually still working on Star Wars?
I mean, if this tweet hadn't happened and you asked me, I'd say not a chance. To be totally honest, I mean, I just figured, it got announced. I don't know how long ago. I mean, when he was.
Oh gosh,
was it before 8 came out?
Yes.
He was doing his own trilogy, so that's been a while now. I mean, I guess anything's possible. Did he not get the memo that, like, did they pull a Gina with him and they just didn't announce that he's not coming back? I don't know. No, I mean, I think it's possible that this could be a case where, he was paid to work on developing, films or a trilogy, and he might still be getting paid to do that. And he might do that. He might turn in a draft or ideas or scripts or probably more so treatments or whatever. And they could still pass on it, or they could greenlight it. I don't think this makes any confirmation that it's going to happen. We seemingly know that, I think it's been confirmed. The Rogue Squadron movie, Patty Jenkins movie, is the 2023. Is that right? 2023 movie?
2023, yep. Mm-hmm.
And then you assume 2025 is Taika's movie. Again, none of this is confirmed, but then there's another movie that's every 2 years, basically. They've got the three of them at least are dates on the Disney calendar. 2027 could be the first of this, which is still obviously a ways off. You got plenty of time to write it, plan it, do whatever. Right. So, I mean, it could happen. I think it's probably not likely.
Right.
But
Case, is he working on it? And I think I'll throw in that I actually think if it does happen, and I think maybe we mentioned this, actually the three of us did months ago, that it could more likely actually be Disney Plus movies.
Yeah.
You think?
No, I think that is kind of what we were hitting on in earlier episodes. I have no reason to believe he's not working on it until they say no. I have every reason to believe that he's still working on it and they still plan on it. But you're right; it's like, they could pass on it, whatever. But he's just taking a sweet time on it, I suppose. And I think one of the things I said on the early episode was, possibly his story is kind of evergreen. I don't think it necessarily has to take place within a certain time period, or even, before or after a certain, releasing it before or after another film for it to make sense. And I feel like it truly is going to be a standalone story to where they can wait. If they have to wait 5 years, then they can do that. So it certainly doesn't seem to be a rush. I think it, and because of that, because it feels very much like a standalone movie, it certainly, I think all signs point now towards Disney Plus movie, which that's because that has to happen. It can't just be all TV shows. I think it's inevitable that we'll get movies there, and maybe Rian Johnson is the first one, or Taika's the first one. Who knows?
That's true. Yep. I think also, the funny thing about development too, right, is, Rian, like you said, Cody, Rian could have been writing this script, turning in drafts, focusing on, similar to what they did with the High Republic, right? Focusing on what era are you going to be talking about, right? Because I have a feeling that whatever Rian was working on was beyond this Skywalker saga, either beforehand or maybe after. But, again, the funny thing about development is we know, like you said, Casey, it hasn't, we're going to keep continuing to believe it until we hear that Lucasfilm has stopped it. But what we do know that they stopped was they stopped the partnership with Benioff and Weiss, right? Who went off to do their Netflix deal. They were rumored to be working on possibly a Knights of the Old Republic content, right? Well, could it be that was really compelling stuff and they said, hey, Rian, we actually don't like your stuff. Why don't you see what you can do with this? Maybe Rian's working on Old Republic scripts, because it'd be a shame to hear those rumors or to possibly come to fruition that we're actually going to see that time period, and all of a sudden they stop doing it just because those guys left. And I think there's a lot of fans, really want that. And I know that there's rumors that they're reimagining the game and we're going to possibly get the game again, which would then really make that situation canon, that time period canon. But I don't know. Do you see Rian at all diving into that era or do you see him? Because that's a big question, I think, Cody, what type of Star Wars movie is Rian Johnson actually working on? You know what I mean?
I think that's the question. It's like looking at his body of work, looking at Last Jedi, the themes he was playing off of, I think a lot of, and good themes too, mm-hmm. Like you like the movie or don't like it. This idea that anybody can, achieve greatness, or you don't have to, at the time, be, born into a certain status to, wield the Force or whatever. So I would think, with that being said, he would either go like way, way, way before Old Republic, or mm-hmm. like way, 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 way after 9.
Yeah.
Like when you mentioned it would be like so far outside of, or if it's even in like, I don't even know, like beyond what we can fathom in Star Wars, like beyond unknown regions. Like what is past the unknown regions?
Right.
Unknown regions, like a whole nother, galaxy. Because it seemed like he dived a lot into the history of the First Jedi, with the, I always just refer to it as Skellig Michael, but Octo. Mm-hmm. So I could see him like going back to some of that stuff and like how the Force started. There's almost like even hints in lore that was addressed in The Mandalorian when Mando took Grogu to that rock. So there's like EU ties to original Force and Jedi beginnings, that there could be stuff there. And I wouldn't mind like seeing some of that. I just kind of hope it's not about Broom Boy, to be honest.
Could be. It could be. I don't know, Case. What do you think? You think he's working on Old Republic at all?
That would be cool. I don't. It just depends, I guess, on how old. And if it's like the origins of the Force. To me, that kind of screams like a primitive look and feel of Star Wars, which doesn't feel Rian Johnson, but that doesn't mean it can't be. So. Just because he hasn't done it doesn't mean he can't do it. But because all of his stuff feels very, either it's sci-fi-ish or it's just very set in a very real and modern world. I don't think he's kind of broken into that, like Game of Thrones type of, what you would think is the dark ages of Star Wars. But I think he could, and I think it would potentially be pretty good. So if it's, Knights of the Old Republic era, that's awesome. We kind of talked about it on another episode of, if they did Knights of the Old Republic, they should probably backdate, make it feel older than what the games did. But,
right.
So again, back to the same thing about Rian Johnson, would he fit well in that type of world? And I think he could. There was that one comic series with Dark Horse right before the buyout, where they did go into the origins of Jedi and
I was reading
the Force, and it was really good. Because that was really like elemental. Like you didn't have lightsabers; it was literally like crystals, sabers kind of a thing, and it was cool. But that world feels more like a Benioff and Weiss and less of a Rian Johnson. So it depends on how far back he's going to go. I kind of think, again, to my earlier point, his story and his themes can be placed in any era, maybe. So maybe it is just a conversation with Lucasfilm talking to Rian Johnson, saying like, we like your story. Can you just write it in this era? We really want to start Old Republic, so we'll have you kick it off on Disney Plus. So here's your world building set which is like literally almost nothing. So here you go. I could see him jumping at that, because I do want to see what worlds he can build from scratch. I think that's kind of what he was possibly wanting to do. It seemed like he had that itch from Last Jedi, to your point, Cody, about showing us glimpses of origins of Jedi. So I think he would certainly do that. I think he's not opposed at all to even looking at current Legends content, because I remember he went back when the whole debate about controversy about Luke's Force projection, where Rian Johnson took a picture of from the Book of Jedi book, I think, something that kind of justifies that ability that we saw in Last Jedi. It was something about essentially what Force projection is. So he knows there's material out there. So I think he would certainly take established Legends material that he probably knows fans love, but just put it into his own new worlds. So that's kind of my long-winded answer, but yeah, I can dig it, I guess, is the brief answer.
But I think we have to brace ourselves, because I think the Adventures of Master Broomboy is a possibility. So don't count that out.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So other interesting news, again, switching mediums a little bit. It was teased and then announced this week of a brand new comic series coming, highlighting the one and only Boba Fett, which we're getting a lot of these days with his reintroduction in Mandalorian. Although this is actually the Boba Fett we knew prior to Return of the Jedi. According to StarWars.com, is going to be a massive crossover with the current storylines of comics that are out there. Star Wars, Afra, there's a Bounty Hunters series out right now, Darth Vader. And it's going to take place between episodes 5 and 6. And it is the story of getting Han Solo back to, or delivered to, Jabba the Hutt. Now, there was a book, this kind of just made me think of, there was a book that actually took place between 5 and 6, but it is obviously Legends now, called Shadows of the Empire. I loved that book. I felt like, I think, did you guys read that book?
I did not, actually.
I haven't read it.
Oh, wow. I actually have the graphic novel as well. They actually turned it into a graphic novel. I got to get it to you guys, because it fills in that gap, in a sense, at the time, of how Boba Fett got Han to Jabba. It filled in the gap of how Leia got Bausch's bounty hunter outfit. Black Sun was introduced. Prince Zizor, however it's pronounced, was introduced in that book. How him and Vader were fighting for the Emperor's favor. It's such a good book. Again, it's Legends now, but that's the first thing I thought of when I read about this article. That wow, they're actually going to retell that story. They're going to canonize that story. It seems like there's going to be a lot of bounty hunters, obviously, and it's called War of the Bounty Hunters, is what the crossover event is called. So, so that'll be out this summer, I think. And the headline writer is the great Charles Soule, who is just putting out all kinds of great content for Star Wars. But obviously with other writers that are happening with the crossover. So, Case, what's your thoughts on this story in this series?
Yeah, I pretty immediately thought, like, didn't they already tell this story in Legends? So hopefully it is that kind of, which is fun. Like, I mean, which is a good story of him fending off other bounty hunters. If it's the same thing, if they're trying to also get Han Solo and he's like, fending him off and saying, no, he's mine. So that'd be cool. And I think even to that point, Black Sun is going to be in this story as well. So we know Black Sun is canon. So just to have, them even more present is awesome. I think they certainly have a lot more stories that need to be told, within this era. So that will be certainly fun. But I guess I was unclear. Is Charles Soule is writing, basically the Boba Fett has his own line that is part of this crossover. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think he's writing the Boba Fett part of the series, which is crossing over with, looks like Greg Pak, who is writing the Vader series at this time right now. Alyssa Wong is writing Dr. Aphra, and Ethan Sachs is writing Bounty Hunters right now. So each one of those is going to have the cover War of the Bounty Hunters on it, and you're going to have to, read into those to follow the storyline. This is the first, I feel like it's the first multi-comic crossover. There has been a couple of crossovers, but not this big.
I think the press release did say this is the biggest Marvel crossover that they've done. I guess with Star Wars, which surprised me to read that because I thought there were other big ones, but perhaps not. So this would be cool, and I love the role that the comics are playing in the sense that they are quite literally filling in each moment gap between these films, and it's pretty seamless, and that really excites me, and so I cannot wait to read this arc.
Yeah, Cody, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it was teased, like you sent us the Boba Fett, there was just an image before we knew this announcement, and it was, the sort of the dark black looking suit, and we were all sort of speculating a bit. In my head, I was thinking, oh, they're going to tell how we got out of the Sarlacc pit. But then I'm like, no, now that they've said this, it's like, well, obviously some of that'll probably come up in the Disney Plus series. But no, I think this looks cool. I mean, the panels that they've previewed from it, I like Boba Fett. Obviously, I've got the helmet behind me. Boba Fett just looks cool in comic form because it's just, I don't know, it's a great medium for him because you can put him in these awesome, like, jetpack using, blasting, sort of like drawn poses and stuff. So just surely from like an art standpoint, I think it's going to be awesome. My limited experience with Shadows of the Empire is just like seeing all the toys and stuff, and thinking they looked like really cool iterations of the characters that I never knew existed because I saw all the toys before I even knew that there was a book about it.
Yeah,
so I think it'll be cool. Yeah, it'll be cool to dive in. Honestly, like I would like to maybe just dive into the graphic novel of Shadows of the Empire, maybe first, and then read this like as it's coming out or whatever, just to kind of compare and see like how they pull from Legends and stuff.
I know. I'll unearth it. It's kind of I boxed all of my Legends stuff in the storage units because I just want to put canon stuff out right now, but I'll unearth that and share it from the archives. That's exactly right. Yeah. So to get down to the actual release of this thing, it is running, which is actually a long series. It's running from May through October, and it kicks off with War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha Number 1 from Charles Soule, and artist Steve McNiven. So you get the first cover and look at it below. It's coming out on May 5th. And it will spin out into Marvel's entire post-Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back line, which includes Star Wars, Bounty Hunters, Darth Vader, and Dr. Aphra. But so it does spin off, but the 5-issue War of the Bounty Hunters miniseries from Soule and Luke Ross, which will anchor the story, begins in June. And that will last, again, for 5 issues, so probably for 5 months, which leads you into October. So not only are you getting the 5-issue miniseries, but you're getting kind of spin-offs. You know, when they do kind of crossovers with those other ones, they're part of the story, but they're not necessarily, you don't necessarily need to read those in order to follow the main series. But it's good little side stories that happen. I love crossovers like that. I think I got to get caught up on a lot of these, but I'm actually reading Bounty Hunters. I haven't. I started reading Vader a little bit. I haven't got to the Star Wars part because I'm still reading the Star Wars from between 4 and 5. I haven't got to Hoth yet on there. But like you said, Casey, it's actually pretty crazy how they are literally filling in those gaps, those 3 years, and then now that 1 year between 5 and 6. So you've got how and what happened to these characters. So really cool announcement there. They're obviously laying the groundwork of a lot more Boba Fett to come as we get this series, the Boba Fett, at the end of this year. So there's that announcement, as well as that just announced today. We got told a few weeks ago about Lucasfilm Games and how they are expanding their library and their reach to other creators out there, not just EA anymore. That exclusive contract is going to be ending. So Lucasfilm Games is actually in the works with other developers. And one such developer, which is Zynga, I guess how you say it, right? Zynga, who's very big app developer, again, mobile game app developer. But they are releasing later this year Star Wars Hunters. It's coming to your iOS and Android mobile device, as well as the Nintendo Switch, which is crazy because Nintendo Switch hasn't gotten any Star Wars games, except, I don't know if you guys knew this, but they re-released the pod racing game. I think it's called Pod Racing, Star Wars Pod Racing, on Nintendo Switch. But Star Wars Hunters is coming later this year. Not much. There's a teaser trailer out right now about it. The way to describe it, it's if you've ever dreamed of competing in a galactic arena, the roar of the cheering crowd in your ears, a new Star Wars game promises to capture that spirit with all new characters and Star Wars-inspired locations. Set after the fall of the Galactic Empire, Star Wars Hunters will connect players in real time to battle in arena settings inspired by iconic Star Wars locales. Play as daring bounty hunters, heroes of the rebellion, and an Imperial Stormtrooper in an action game that immerses players in fast-paced and visually stunning Star Wars conflict. So, I don't know, Cody, what is it? It kind of sounds like almost like a Fortnite, but in an arena where you're just getting in and battle roying it.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like in the teaser, it kind of opens up to like this Jabba's palace looking thing, and you go by a couple holograms, and then it opens up and you see just like a lightsaber and blasters. So when I first read about it and saw that teaser, I was thinking, oh, this is a free to play battle royale game for the Switch. And then read more about it and saw, oh, great. Because at first I was like, oh, now I got to go get a Switch because I want to play the Star Wars game. Now it's coming to iOS and Android. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just play it on my phone, unless maybe that's my excuse to buy a Switch Lite or something that I've wanted to get anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe I can use that as an excuse. We'll see how it works on the wife. But Anyway, I read more about it, and it seems like Zynga, I don't know if they're called Zynga Games or Zynga, have done the Farmville, and you mentioned some of the app games and things that they do. So maybe tempering my expectations just a little bit, because it may be more of a like top-down shooter type deal as opposed to like a full-out like Fortnite Battle Royale. I'm not huge. I haven't really played Fortnite or Battle Royale games, but I love that this is set between 6 and 7. I love the idea that like it seems like Lucasfilm is kind of doubling down on this timeline. If you start to, you obviously Mandalorian, more shows in the Mandalorian sphere are in that era. Now this game is in that era. Really interested to see what other games and content are going to be pushed in this era. So I will definitely sit down and play it on my phone, or hopefully just have some fun playing it.
Yeah, I kind of thought of whenever I was seeing the teaser, and maybe it's because it was on TV the other day, but I was thinking of that scene in Thor Ragnarok where Hulk and Thor battle it out, and that's kind of like the arena thought process I was going through. Like this is their game of that. So I don't know, Case, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I certainly got the Battle Royale vibes, and also I guess the way you call it, Cody, the top-down look, Farmville. I kind of thought that also, which that point of view of gaming doesn't engage me as much. Although I know it's it's got a long history of very successful.
What do you mean by top-down? Like bird's eye, kind of like
that 3/4, just like you're kind of looking at it at a top, but at an angle. Almost like, going way back, I guess. What's it called? Like the Civilization games,
like the regular Red Alert games, or something like that, like the battle games.
Or even Star Wars. There was an old Star Wars game called Star Wars Galaxies where there was you kind of look at them from top down, and you're strategizing your world in that sense. But so we'll see. I mean, I do like Fortnite. I'm not sure. I got no sense from this that it was essentially going to be the same as Fortnite or is it PUBG is the other big one of where you build your forts and you build your structures and then you just kind of duke it out. So if it's more just literally just dumping players into a pre-established map like Battlefront, where you just have rooms and you have different places you can go, less so building and collecting items, but that would be cool too. So we'll see. I've never been huge on mobile gaming, but not against it. So I can't wait to see the more gameplay and to see exactly what the mechanics of it will be.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in, is the mechanics. I think luckily my daughters have a Nintendo Switch, so I could definitely get it for that. Because I'd rather play it on a television than on the mobile. But and I highly recommend them, Cody. Switches are pretty cool. A lot of good games on there, but
might have to cave and get one for this.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy how you can play it handheld actually, or you can sit in a dock and play it on your screen. It's pretty cool how it does it. Good family games too to play. Plus Mario Kart is like the best game ever. So new games are coming. I think we're going to get a lot more this year announced. This is just the beginning, I think. We got the open world game apparently coming from Ubisoft, and now you got this announcement from Zynga. You got EA that's still developing games. So man, I keep them coming. I think it's going to be a big rollout of games here over the next couple of years. Okay, so before we get into our last topic here, just some announcements about some upcoming releases. High Republic is rolling out, obviously, on the publishing side. You've got the third book in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy dropping on March 2nd here in a couple of weeks, called Victory's Price. You've got the Dr. Aphra drama series that was released as an audio series in book form. That's April 6th. You got this second Thrawn Ascendancy novel, Greater Good, coming out April 27th. And then you got Rising Storm, which is the next adult novel in the High Republic series coming June 29th from Kevin Scott. Comics, Star Wars number 10, Bounty Hunters number 10, those drop early March as well. So lots of content coming on the publishing side. All right, so let's briefly talk about this. 50 years ago, 1971, George Lucas starts Lucasfilm. Now, as I know most of you know, and I know you guys know, he started it with his first film, which was THX 1138. Went on to make American Graffiti before actually diving in and writing Star Wars, which I think he started writing around 1974. The movie released, obviously, in 1997, changed his life forever. But he didn't just do Star Wars, right? He found time to do Indiana Jones in there. The Indiana Jones, the Young Indiana Jones series, TV series that came out. Howard the Duck. I mean, he was working on Willow. You're right, which is coming back, actually, Disney Plus. So Lucasfilm has made a lot of stuff. Now, I think for most people out there, to be honest, I feel like if you were to say, what does Lucasfilm do? I think they would just say Star Wars. But, this is kind of a two-part conversation I want to have. First, for both of you, Case, I'll go to you first. Like, just take us back, go all the way back to when this all started, with George and Lucasfilm and all this stuff. I mean, to you, I know you obviously, both of you actually going through the film process, film school in a sense, and we're all three working in the production world. Lucasfilm, in a sense, because George not only started Lucasfilm, but Skywalker Sound, ILM. I mean, he is one of the, if not the biggest innovators of film, period. I mean, it's hard to imagine. It's hard. I can't fathom what George Lucas, the thought process of creating these things. But just talk, in case I was just kind of wondering your impact on the feeling of knowing what impact this has and in your career or in your life. And what point did you realize what Lucasfilm even was?
I love that you say, take us back to when it all started. Like, I remember it like it was yesterday.
No.
But, no, I mean, yeah, I guess I can't pinpoint maybe when I realized the wide scope of, like, it was also Indiana Jones, because I've been probably an Indiana Jones fan just as long as I've been a Star Wars fan, and not knowing at the very beginning they were connected, but I knew George Lucas, but I guess now Lucasfilm in itself, I wasn't aware of just really what the company meant. But certainly that's it's impact on my life, because it's Star Wars, it's Indiana Jones, and we can't, basically without George Lucas and Lucasfilm, we wouldn't. I don't think we would have Pixar, right? Because they made the first computers, and a lot of those guys became Pixar guys. So, so it spawned kind of pretty much from George and his original team, and that in itself is just as large of an influence. Pixar is just as large of an influence, I think. On our culture and certainly my cinema experience as Star Wars, because Toy Story came out early mid 90s, right? So I was just a little one, blown away by that. So blown away by everything that ILM has done, which was another. It's more than just, so Lucasfilm just spawned so many other things that we take for granted, or just aren't realizing what it all came from. ILM, the THX sound, world, that all the innovations they did through that. So, just saying it and thinking of it, realizing, and also haven't thought of that in a long time, because seeing that logo and that sound in front of movies, missed that. So there's a lot. There's certainly a lot of branches from Lucasfilm and from George Lucas that, and I guess I'm mostly talking general because this affects everybody in our entire culture. But for me personally, obviously, I wouldn't be doing a lot like this without George Lucas. Wouldn't have stuff like this right next to me if it wasn't for George Lucas. So
that's right.
Yeah, and it's just a combination of him and the people that he worked with. Steven Spielberg, and all those guys. The big triumvirate of, really more like 4 or 5 guys that came from that same film school at the time. So it's just that world, man. It's just that era spawned so much of what has made our culture today, and certainly made my interests, be what they are today.
Yeah, Cody, do you remember when you realized the impact of Lucasfilm?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember when Lucasfilm was started because that was before my time. But no, I mean, it's. I mean, Casey mentioned a lot of really interesting things that we share some common experiences. Learning film school. But I think even kind of like before that, obviously, Star Wars is the first thing that impacted me from Lucasfilm, and then growing up, getting a little older, being introduced to the Indiana Jones movies and trilogy like that, just from a movie standpoint, those are the ones that I watched and took in. But when you look at, the Francis Ford Coppola, Casey mentioned Spielberg and Lucas, they were all working at that time together, and this idea of creativity and really well-known filmmakers that were friends and sharing their ideas and their cuts of their movies. And things like that still happen today, but I think there's less of some of that camaraderie in some of the film industry. Which is a shame, but that idea of like that film school mentality of like, hey, like we're learning new techniques and things, and when I first got a camera, I remember like learning all those new interesting things you could do, and learning how to use effects on a computer when I learned how to edit for the first time. So there's a lot of those like shared experiences that it's not necessarily like I took it straight from George, watching any interviews with him, or but it's some of that same spirit of, you watch Star Wars and it allows you to daydream and allows you to want to create and think up stories in that universe. And what are other stories that I could tell or would want to tell, either using a camera or other mediums that are kind of like that hero's journey. I feel like George really did make the hero's journey is as important as it is in modern blockbusters. And just that idea of like, bringing the technical side with the storytelling, I think is the most important thing that I kind of like look at when I see what George is able to accomplish in Lucasfilm. Whether it's, you're watching behind the scenes footage and they're playing with miniatures and capturing miniatures to do, the trench run in Star Wars, or if you look back on, the episode 1 has a really great like documentary behind the scenes. They were doing a lot of groundbreaking stuff. They actually, I think it's been said a lot, but they used a ton of miniatures on that. Obviously, as well as like blue green screen was like very new technology. Shooting digital was really new, which obviously like we're all able to shoot digital because, people like George really like fought for it, worked hard to do that at a time that it may not have been as popular, or they may not have even had the right technology. So there's a lot of like just that spirit of creativity that I feel like I pick up on, and it really interests me and it inspires me in a way, especially some of the technical side of things, but like how George is able to stay ahead technically. It makes you want to like dive in and understand some of the technical side of, if you're into production like we are, that part of it, and how you can tell good stories using the technology. So I just think it's very inspirational when you look at his career and Lucasfilm's, breadth of work.
Yeah, and since I'm a little bit older than you guys, I can think back in the time during the 80s when, the Return of the Jedi had just coming out in 83. And then, of course, we did start getting these Indiana Jones movies. And I remember, I think I speak for a lot of Star Wars fans at the time, that you kind of thought, why is George working on this? Why isn't he not working on more Star Wars stuff? But we didn't realize until close to the announcement of Episode 1 that he was waiting. He was waiting for technology to catch up with his imagination. And he just didn't want to make something that looked like a good movie. He wanted it to look as real as possible. And I'll never forget specifically the year, 1994, when Jurassic Park came out. And even though that was a Spielberg movie, that was done by ILM. And I remember watching that movie and thinking, wow, this is what George is waiting for. Like, this is the technology that he has helped develop and create so that we could have what looks like real dinosaurs on the screen. And of course, shortly after that, he started writing Episode 1, and it wasn't until 1999 that we got it. But yeah, both of you hit on it. Like I just can't. I don't know if today's generation of filmmakers, I mean, I think Hollywood filmmakers, but I'm talking about like kids right now that are, in the production field or just working on their own movies. Just realize the impact that Lucas and ILM and Skywalker Sound, how much that is actually fed into almost every film that comes out from all these studios. And it's amazing, his impact. So, fast forward now to 2012, right? When seemingly, we all, at some point, I felt like Episode 3, no more Star Wars. We're not getting any more Star Wars movies. We might get some animated series. Obviously, we were working on watching the Clone Wars. But then all of a sudden, it's time for Lucas to step away and turn it over to Disney. Come a lot of thoughts about that. The reason this podcast started was because of that buyout, because we knew we were going to get Star Wars from the end of time now. It just opened up a lot more doors that Lucas could not do himself. Because that's the amazing thing too, just to comment back to the, Empire Strikes Back days. I mean, he funded that movie himself. This was all his. It wasn't like a studio fully backed him on his ideas and that he eventually bought the property. I mean, he kept the property himself, which is incredible foresight on his part. Therefore, he was able to sell this thing for $4 billion in 2012. So let's just talk now about Lucasfilm since 2012. It's been 8 years now, a little over 8 years. Case, where do you think Lucasfilm is now? How good do you feel or bad do you feel now about what it's creating and where we're at with it?
No, I can't. It's hard to be anything but glad. I'm certainly in the camp that this has been huge for Star Wars to, like you said, it's going to be, they're going to grow the brand and they're going to keep putting out new content forever. After Episode 3, I thought we would get, animated movies with the original characters voiced by the original actors. I never thought we would get live action Star Wars again. I just thought it was all going to be animated, which I was fine with. But yeah, I mean, just immediately when I heard and read that Disney was buying it, and in that same release, it was like, and you're getting 3 more Star Wars movies. It's like this is just too good to be true. This is just amazing. Too good to be true. Very sad that George Lucas is leaving. But it's good to know that the brand is going to live on, and what better hands than Disney? And that's, also reiterating words from Lucas himself, basically saying the same thing. So it's, Disney has grown to where it is, like I said, by, through Pixar. Disney's grown to where it is by acquiring Pixar. So now it's, it just makes sense. All just the theme of all those brands go in sync. And so it just makes sense that Disney, absolves it and grows it, because I think it'll be consistent. There's the other camp of people that think that it's Disney-fied, or whatever they say, Mickey-fied, or whatever, however they want to put the label on it. But it just depends. It's from your certain point of view, as they say. But to me, that's they aren't doing anything different than what Star Wars already is. You can have debates about Force Awakens, and it's come out. This is the way Force Awakens happened. It was pretty much how Bob Iger and Disney wanted it to be. Not the way George Lucas wanted it to be. So you can debate about the direction of some of these stories, but the spark and just the excitement and the magic is still there. And I've overall have loved the stories. Obviously, like with anybody, it could be done differently. Hindsight, it's like, oh, you should have done this instead. It's like, of course, but we got what we got, and for what it is, it's great. Could have been better, but there's always more stories to tell, so there's always more room to grow, and we have till Lord knows how much longer. So they'll just keep making better stuff, ideally. I think if they're doing it, I think they keep making better stuff. So we're getting there.
Yeah. Cody, what do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, I'm kind of a Disney fan already, outside of, the fact that they own Star Wars now, and, obviously like Star Wars. I like Pixar movies. Casey mentioned sort of the connections there. It made sense, like you said, that George would pick Disney. Star Wars did have a bit of a obviously familial themes within the stories, but that atmosphere around it, maybe this is just, a lot of my experience growing up, it was something that, my mom and dad showed me when I was young. I was able to watch the VHS tapes a lot. We had toys and things. So the toys were kind of how I got really into it. And it was always this idea of it's such a vast world. I think every Star Wars fan at some point has dreamed up about more stories to tell in the Star Wars world, right? Whether you're actually thinking about a story or you're just playing with the toys and you got your I had the Millennium Falcon just kind of tipped over by the couch, and it's like, oh, they crash landed, and, they've got to do this. And it's all these characters together, and it's that spirit of that idea continued on when Disney acquired Star Wars, when George sold it. So I think it's great. I think I have enjoyed what we've gotten thus far. I don't really think there's a Disneyfying. Casey kind of mentioned it. I think there's one thing that not a lot of people mention, and it actually came up in the video games, and it didn't happen in Force Awakens like it probably should have. But no character has lost a hand to a lightsaber in the films or video games. There's been no limb dismemberment in the video games. It's very specific. Only robots and creatures can in video games. So not a lot of people talk about it. That's probably the biggest Disney change that I've noticed. So,
no one's talking about this. I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah. It's such a nitpick that it's Finn should have lost his hand, whatever. But that's not even worth discussing, because it's about the stories, and I feel like Disney has carried the torch really well. And I'm always going to be the one that wants more stories, just like when I was a little kid dreaming up those stories.
You should let Kevin Feige do Star Wars, and he'll have people's hands chopped off again. Someone's hand gets chopped off in every Marvel movie.
I feel like conversation. I don't know why they stopped doing it, but in Fallen Order, it's really interesting. It's you can't.
Why do they stop doing that?
You can't chop off the stormtroopers' limbs, but you can with droids and stuff. It's weird.
I never knew that. I never realized that. No, I think I'm with both of you. I'm quite happy where we're at right now. I mean, I think, Casey, we can probably go back to a very early episode of Inside the Force where we probably talked about, gosh, can you imagine 5-10 years from now how much Star Wars we're going to have? And we're about there. We're in our 9th year of Lucasfilm being owned by Disney, and we've got 5 full-length feature films. We've got a Disney Plus series, countless novels and comics. We got more Disney series coming out. I mean, 5 years from now, it's going to be a different catalog of Star Wars content. And, there's always that argument about whether or not, or that debate, whether or not it would get too saturated. Would the market get too saturated with Star Wars content? Would that start turning people away? Look, to me, it all comes down to quality. If it's good stuff, it's not going to turn anybody away. You're just still going to definitely have your detractors and people that are maybe not into that story. But all in all, if it's hitting on the right vibes, if it's still, I go back to, gosh, it's ingrained in me now, that line from Filoni in the Disney Plus Gallery series where he says, Star Wars is about family and it's about hope. And if you have those themes centered into your characters and into your stories, then that's what we all grabbed onto, at any point in our lives when we got introduced to Star Wars. So, I see that light in my daughter's eyes. She was, she's 11 now, and she was a little hesitant about Star Wars, when she was 6, 7, 8, but now she's fully invested in Ahsoka. Like, Ahsoka's her girl. She cannot wait for that series. Wants to go back and watch Clone Wars, and so so when she saw that Mandalorian episode with her in it, she was hooked. I mean, that was it. That was her Luke moment. It was great to see. And so as long as they keep putting good stuff out there, I think that we're going to be in good shape. Last question, and I think and I just want a yes/no answer. Yes/no answer. 50 years of Lucasfilm. Cody, yes, no. You want to see another Star Wars film by George Lucas?
I'm going to go yes.
Case?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Is he writing or directing? Or both?
He has written a script he would like to direct.
Why not? We're getting,
better than it not happen at all.
Yeah.
I'm there. Why not? Yeah, totally. Yes, I would be totally on board for that.
And you can do it for cheaper. Give him $120 million like he used to do.
Yes. Yeah.
Pennies. It's chump change.
Just do.
I mean, yeah. Warner Brothers is making blockbusters for like $80 million.
That's right.
Shoot.
That's right.
Give him a camera and that new stagecraft technology. He'll make a Star Wars movie.
No, that would be very interesting if he was able to come back and do something. Probably not, but we could always hope.
I thought for sure for a little bit, and I think other people speculated when we didn't know who the last director on The Mandalorian season 2, I was like, it's going to be like a cameo, not a cameo, but like they have guest directors for things. Yeah. And Kevin Smith has directed some of the CW shows, and Kevin Smith's a director. He's great, but you could easily have him come in, and it's not like he's going to monumentally change anything. He's not going to necessarily write his own version of it. I think that could actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually with you. I think Favreau is probably started laying that seed. Because you see George on set here and there. It's totally in Favreau's wheelhouse to be like, come on, man, just direct this episode.
That's the thing. I would be at start of each season, I would just be like, which one do you want to do? Just pick one. Which one do you want to do?
Yeah.
The
Every day.
Season 1 finale, directed by George Lucas.
Yeah.
Season 1, what? The finale? The whole series finale?
No, just the season. Season 1. So, Filoni's probably going to direct maybe all of them, or at least the first episode or first couple, and then give George Lucas the 8 episodes. Give him the finale of the first season. What a fitting way to bring Filoni and George back together. It would be just beautiful behind the scenes footage, PR person's dream. It's already written by Filoni, so he's already going to be there on set.
That would be pretty amazing. That would be actually, and that would get a lot of the feels out there, I think, for Star Wars fans. That would be fantastic. All right. That will do it for this episode of Inside the Force. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out. Of course, you can find us all your podcast feeds on YouTube at youtube.com/Inside the Force, where you can see us. We actually got a comment on one of our videos just the other day saying, "Oh, I didn't know you guys did video. I can see you guys." Yeah, we're here.
Here we are. Sorry.
So come check us out. Give us a subscribe button there, and we obviously have a weekly show here, but we're also putting out some council sessions and some Beyond the Sagas, and a new interview series that we'll be dropping here shortly, where we're expanding all of our content and getting into other different topics and discussions. So come check us out. Again, all of those are on the podcast feed as well, so you will never miss an episode. Take care, everybody. Hope everybody, I know it's a rough time out there for some people without power and stuff like that, so hope you can get through it. We're going to stay warm as much as we can, and we will see you guys back next week. For Cody Geidler.
Bye.
Casey Cooley.
Goodbye, everybody.
I'm David Gottingham. Thanks, everybody. Take care, and may the Force be with you.